My name is King, and I also talk about media that I care about on this channel. So, in today's video, we're going to be talking about Wuthering Heights in quotes, Emerald Fennell, and Let Women Have Fun, which is just code for let white women do whatever the hell they like, and we call it choice feminism, and everybody else should shut the fuck up. I'm not shutting up about it. Let's talk about it today.
I'm going to say something controversial about the Wuthering Heights film adaptation. I saw it 2 days ago, and this is not about the whitewashing of Heathcliff, which is a valid criticism, and I agree it should have been a POC actor playing that character. My point is the insane double standard of everyone ripping Emerald Fennell to shreds for not making an accurate adaptation of Wuthering Heights, which she said directly she was going to do. But male directors are messing up source material all the time, and you guys have not said anything about that. When Tarantino rewrote history in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, everyone said it was incredible, it was genius, it was amazing, da 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 da. But Emerald Fennell is having a fun version of Wuthering Heights, which again, she said she was gonna do. And you guys are mad at her for it? Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is a loose adaptation of the Odyssey where Homer is credited as a writer in the credits of the movie, and everyone loves Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and it's not accurate to the Odyssey. But when Emerald Fennell is like, I'm just gonna have a fun time with my version of Wuthering Heights, the 8th version of Wuthering Heights, by the way, suddenly everybody's mad about it. Personally, I was able to grasp that it was not going to be a 1-1 of Wuthering Heights when I saw non-period accurate costuming, non-period accurate set design, and the wall of skin that Margot Robbie's clawing at, also with how spicy it is. People are like, oh my god, Emerald Fennell is like messing up the movie and the... Have you considered those were intentional creative decisions? Because you expect me to believe that the woman who directed Promising Young Woman, which tackles so many topics with nuance, isn't capable of doing a Wuthering Heights adaptation accurately if she wanted to? God forbid a woman wants to have a little fun in the director's chair. You know what I mean? Guys, what are we doing?
So I think it's wild that in 2026, with how different discussions of women as a group and how there are different kinds of people that fall under the umbrella of women, exist and are allowed to exist under this umbrella of women, and how we are moving forward as a whole. Okay, I can't believe that there are still some people that hold on to this being ideologies where you can't critique a woman simply because she's a woman. If I say I can't believe, I think that would be exaggeration, but I don't know, it's just disappointing that even in 2026, some people don't know how to apply intersectionality, to this movement of liberation for all women. They don't know, and they don't want to. I feel this is about Wuthering Heights in quotes. Wuthering Heights in quotes is the title of the movie, directed by Emerald Fennell. Okay, Emerald Fennell is the heir to a jewelry empire. She has money. Most importantly, she is white. Okay, she is top up there percentage of white women. Okay, and she has chosen to make movies. Yeah, she's chosen to make movies. That's what she wants to do with her money and her time and her brain. So why the hell would the creation of such a person not be subject to critique? People will not be like, oh, because Emerald Fennell is being blatant about her ignorance, and her whitewashing, which is just racist, to be honest. The ignorance that comes with her class and her position in society, and just intentional racism, but some people are like, that's the reason to no. Even if she made something up there, even if she made something wonderful, people have the right to critique the creations of women. That even like validates their position in the world, like as a director. If people are giving women a pass, oh, she's a woman, let her just make what she wants, let's not critique her. Don't you see how sexist it is? You get, for you to say because a woman does something, she should not be subjected to criticism, because there are not plenty women doing what she's doing and men get away with it. That's very, very sexist, in my opinion. Those standards exist for the kind of creation, kind of aspect of society she's contributing to, which is art, which is film. It's is subject to criticism. Let's get into the video properly.
The Heathcliff casting, I mean, has had some comments around if that should be a person of color and, you know, casting Jacob in it. What do you kind of think about that commentary?
I think the thing is everyone who loves this book has such a personal connection to it. And so you can only ever kind of make the movie that you sort of imagined yourself when you read it, and then you can, I don't know, I think I was sort of focusing on kind of sadomasochistic elements of it. And so, but that's the great thing about this movie, is it could be made every year and it would still be so moving and so interesting. There are so many different takes. So, you know, I just welcome I think every year we should have a new one.
I want to start with the interview first of all. In the interview where somebody is just blatantly asking her about this Heathcliff, role, what exactly do you have to say about not casting a person of color? And she gave up this word salad that basically says everybody holds on to the version of the feelings that they had when they first read the book, when they think about Wuthering Heights. Yeah. Anyways, so she's talking about her childhood memory. She says she's holding on to her childhood understanding of her childhood memories of how the book made her feel then. And I'm like, so basically, they do not exist. People of different races do not exist in her imagination. They do not exist in her imaginations as a child, and they do not exist now that she's a full-grown adult that has the opportunity to reread this book and consider the climate that we are in. And that's why I started off with her wealth and her position. She is a woman, yes, but she is a heiress to a Jewry empire. And she's white. Most of all, she is white. So to her, how she can spend her money and let her creative juices flow is to create a whitewashed version of the book that she read as a child. And she started to talk something about sadomasochism, and it's like the sadomasochism of Heathcliff is entirely because of how, not entirely, but it comes from the place of his ordering in the society he existed in. This is somebody that waited his turn to marry the girl that he was in love with, and he had to be subject to so many things that erased his dignity. You get watching her, and then when he was now giving his turn to marry her, he put her in a room, and like this man was so in love with her, but he literally tortured her in such a way that she withered away. I think she died of heartbreak. She died of heartbreak because of this horrible man. And after dying of heartbreak, him too now felt heartbreak at her dying, and they decided to punish her child for it. And I sat there watching it, like I sat there reading it, my eyeballs nearly falling out from sorrow. It is sadomasochist, like it's sadomasochist if you think about it, yes, but it's coming from somewhere. There are some things it builds upon. Sadomasochism can be an offshoot of trauma, but what trauma is this woman now going to reference in her work? If it's a white man that is very, very much normalized and is the height of society at the time, he's a white man, what exactly is where is the sadomasochism coming from? Fetish. This is what it is, fetish. And so that is why 2 + 2 = 4. That is why this adaptation is going to end up just feeling like a fetish watch, like a fetishistic portrayal of the story, fetishistic portrayal of characters, fetishistic storytelling.
I saw Emerald Fennell's interview about Wuthering Heights, and I haven't talked about it because it actually made me really angry. I have maybe a controversial take that I'd like to share. And as I love movies, I talk about them on this page, and because I love movies, the whole discourse around this has made me really pissed off. Basically, Emerald Fennell said she's not really adapting Wuthering Heights, she's adapting the version of it that she remembers reading when she was a teenager. She also said, and I quote, "You can't adapt a book as dense and complicated and difficult as this book," which I'll get to in a moment. My possibly controversial take is this. Can you imagine anyone else getting away with saying this. As a reminder, Emerald Fennell is heir to a jewellery empire. She has a lot of status in British society. She has a literal Oscar. She could have funded this film from her own pockets. Can you imagine a filmmaker without that wealth and privilege saying, yeah, I'm just adapting kind of what I half remember of the book from when I read it as a kid. Oh, and by the way, I've taken out all the themes of racism. I think it's helpful to contrast this with someone like Chloe Zhao, who adapted Hamnet this year. Can you imagine if she was sitting in interviews about this film saying, yeah, I read the book a few years ago and I interpreted it wrong, but I really like the vibe, so I'm just making a film based on the vibes. And just to circle back to Emerald Fennell's claim that you cannot adapt a book like this, we're getting a film of the Odyssey this year. The Odyssey. Is that not dense, complicated, difficult? But Wuthering Heights was too hard to faithfully adapt. I'm laughing, but it does actually really piss me off because Emerald Fennell is allowed to get away with speaking like this about her work because she has the room to fail. She has the room to take borderline offensive creative risks with her work based on iconic source material without having to worry about how it's going to affect her career or her bottom line. To circle back to Chloe Zhao again, she won an Oscar for Nomadland and then made Marvel's Eternals, which was critically panned. She did not make another film for 4 years until this year when she released Hamnet. Do you think that's an accident? And ask yourself, if Wuthering Heights gets critically panned, do you think Emerald Fennell will suffer the same fate?
And for her to say this in this 2026, and then I go online and I see somebody, a white person basically, and they are saying, we cannot just let women have fun. No, it's 2026, we cannot let women have fun anymore, especially white women. We can't. We keep letting them have fun is equals to, it's not that deep. What is not deep about erasing a person's entire racial identity? And I think the main core of me making this video is because before seeing that person's video on TikTok, I saw another video on YouTube where somebody, because Taylor Swift released Opalite, yeah, rich white women creating art, using racial persons, race, like using people of different races, of a different race, as the butt of the joke. Opalite is basically a thinly veiled, to me personally, is a thinly veiled allegory for the whole Kayla Nicole thing with Travis Kelce. But even before the music video came out, there were lyrical translation, lyrical interpretations of it. Like, it was just there in the lyrics, and people were just like, what do you mean Onyx Nights, blah blah blah? But when the video came out, bro, even before the video came out, there are groups of people, white girls, white fangirls, white people in her fandom, that managed to create a whole storyline that does not touch on anything Kayla Nicole or anything of a black woman involved in Travis Kelce's life. They just perceive the world as it's just me, my white self, and a white man. And the video I saw on YouTube was this whole theory about how it could be a reference to Matty Healy, Matty Healy being the boyfriend that her fandom first started to break up with, and how Matty Healy's girlfriend too is a cactus, and her own boyfriend that is Travis Kelce is a rock, and it's only when two of them come together, blah 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 blah. And it made sense to me, actually. I enjoy watching that person's video, to be honest, because it just makes sense. But it just hits me so much. Like, I felt heartbroken that how wonderful would it be to live in a world where my race is not at risk of being on the mood board for people to order. Do you understand? Like, Emerald Fennell's adaptation makes a man of color, this one of the bad characters, the oppressor, one of the oppressors of Heathcliff, yeah, he made a man of color that. You want to tell me that's not intentional? Like, what if we put the shoe on the other foot and you see how it is when a person of color oppresses a white person? How are they going to go through life with that? We can't put any shoe on another foot. There's no other foot. Reality does not allow it. So, coming, like, that the whole Taylor thing I brought up is just to see how, like, white girls, white women enjoying art can just enjoy art with themselves being at the center of the universe, while when people of other races are included in historical stories, historical texts like Emily Blunt's Wuthering Heights, yeah, generations can come and a white person can just be like, okay, clean it off, you don't exist to me, you've never existed to me. This is a white woman at the height of Britain's whatever Victorian era, and she still included a person of color, and she was able to see the role, the effect that his race, how much oppression he was going through at that time in Victorian era. This is a white woman that did it. You're not even in the position of Emily Blunt. I'm sure you're in a much better position than Emily Blunt was. You have money, you have agency. So-called feminism has brought you this agency to come out there and put your stuff out there. I think the Blunt sisters were publishing under pseudonyms, pretending to be men. You can stand as a woman and claim to be a director, and you as a white consumer, I don't know if you identify as a woman, but you're white, you can now come and shut people of color up and tell them, I don't know, you people don't want white women to have fun. No, she did not say white, the person did not say white women, they said people don't want women to have fun. That if it was a man, you people will not talk. Please, enough with that excuse. You can't keep getting away with things like that. What do you mean fun? What do you mean if it was a man? Oh, so we should let white women perpetrate the same errors that white men perpetrate, but we should let them do it to people like us that still exist, even if the white male directors no longer existed and it was just female directors. The way you are talking now is as if white female directors should just come and do what they like, and we that are all still existing as consumers of such art, you should not say anything about it. Do you understand how very, 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 very anti-feminist you sound? Intersectionality is the Achilles heel of white feminism. You people refuse to see any other perspective from your own. It's how Taylor Swift within a few months co-opted eldest daughter. Do you think the experience of a white girl, a white eldest daughter in a white home is the same as the experience of black eldest daughters in African homes, in black American homes, in brown homes, brown households? You think it's the same? She just co-opted it, and she's not co-opting it as an average, okay, middle class or poor white girl. No, this is a freaking billionaire that is doing this to make money with her 1,000,001 versions. She's doing it to make money. Co-opted it, and her fans are busy championing it, saying, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, she's the eldest daughter. Shut. You can't just come and tell us that, oh, it's just white, let women have fun. No, that is not a woman in this case. You can't just come and say let women have fun. In this system, she's only wearing the label of, we are only giving her the label of woman so that she can get away with this rubbish. That's not fair to the other women under the umbrella of women. Intersectionality has been in feminist texts written by women of color, bell hooks. There's this other woman, Zakara. I'll post a picture of the book as well, and it's just, no, even if she made a worthy adaptation, she's still subject to critique. Why is this criticism affecting your head? Why is it disturbing you so bad? You came out to defend her. You understand that this Emerald Fennell is not in your class. So the feminism that you have championing on behalf of her to get away with her rubbish, it will not apply for you. Because when push comes to shove, she's going to get away with the same thing rich white men get away with. Money does buy, positions of power for women, okay? Even there are brown women that have a lot of money and can, escape the realities and the horrors of women in their communities, suffering at the hand of patriarchal oppression. But what kind of oppression is valid criticism for whitewashing a character of another race? How is it going to affect Emerald Fennell? She's enjoying her press run. For God's sake, her lead actress, Margot Robbie just stepped out in stolen jewelry from India, proudly with that her face, twirling and turning around, and all of you were calling it Elizabeth Taylor's necklace. Insanity, hypocrisy. And you now run and use them. No more of that. It's 2026. Enough of that rubbish. You can't keep getting away with things like this. You are making a trash movie and people are going to call it trash. No amount of what of if it was a man, if it was, no, it's not going to fly. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's so annoying, because when I read this thing in books of how white women for ages have stood in front of the feminist movement as if it is their own thought, it's their own thing. Meanwhile, women have been doing labor for ages. The women that take care of that nurse their children, the slave women that served in their homes and were raped by their husbands. When white women started the so-called liberation of women, they didn't consider those other women. No. And now we're in this age, a literal heiress is making a movie adaptation and erasing the character of color, whitewashing, putting a white man there, erasing the identity and the whole plot centered around his otherness, erasing it so boldly. And you're opening your mouth to come on the internet to say let women have fun. Can you see that can you see how illogical and how illogical you sound? People saying it's fan fiction, is this, is that. So let people critique it. If it's not that serious, let people critique it. You want us to live in this bubble of it's not that serious, yeah? So that you can enjoy it without feeling guilty for your participation in erasure of people of color.
So, again, this is not a dunk on this creator, because I like their work and it's just not like a or being superfication. But I think it is important to acknowledge how different people's experiences online will be when you are visibly other, which ties in really well to Wuthering Heights, right? So right now, there is a massive backlash against Lupita Nyong'o being rumored to be playing Helen of Troy because she is a Black woman. And that is seen as so terrible that people are being violently racist and spreading white supremacist misinformation online. So what I think is interesting is that is happening. People are very critical about adaptations, about everything. When Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein was coming out, the main reason I even decided to make a long video about it, discussing the text and how it compared to it, was because people were being bioessentialist in their conversation about why he was making a bad version of Frankenstein. And I found that to be supremely alarming. And I think what's very important to understand, in my perspective, is this. White female directors get a lot of leeway to be racially ignorant, because all of this is really reminding me of when The Beguiled came out, when Sofia Coppola made an adaptation of The Beguiled and she removed a Black character from the original story. And her explanation very much was, I don't think I have the range to do that. And while many people agree that Sofia Coppola does not have the range, that's not an excuse, in my opinion. You are a director of great talent. I'm a Sofia Coppola fan. I have her book. I saw Priscilla in theaters. I didn't stop liking her work because of this. But I think that ability to say well, she is ignorant, maybe she shouldn't do that. It's well, then collaborate with people, bring in voices, collab with people who can help expand your mind. Don't just remove a Black character who's essential to the narrative that is being told. Everything that Guillermo del Toro changed about Frankenstein in terms of its morals and its centers, you can find pieces of contemporary academic discussions about Frankenstein or the Romantics and be okay, that's what he's pulling from, that's what he's pulling from, that's what he's pulling from. I am going to be seeing Wuthering Heights. I'm going to be seeing it twice. I'm seeing it once to just do my job and review and commentary. And then my friends wanted to go see it, so I bought a ticket with them, and I'm going to be seeing it twice. Because I can have fun and I do enjoy it. What is so key to understand about the difference between how these two texts are being received in my mind, or at least how I'm receiving the two of them as someone who is not a purist, not me, is that Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein is at times inaccurate because it is bringing together so much academic and personal aspects of this time period into the narrative. And yes, Guillermo del Toro mentions that he was a child when he watched Frankenstein and connected with it. And because he connected with Frankenstein in the idea of the other, right? That is very different than Emerald Fennell saying that she made her 14-year-old vision of Wuthering Heights, and that happens to be a version that ignores the race implications of the text and how important that is to the narrative. Like, that is so important to the narrative. It's intentional, it's there for a reason, and it's gone now. And that's a problem. That is a problem because at the end of the day, Frankenstein's monster is meant to be the other. Just like Emily Bronte, Mary Shelley was inspired by slave narratives and was aware of what was going on and intentionally included elements of otherness into Frankenstein. And in later printings, in the later printing of Frankenstein, not the 1818 text, but the later one, that was made even more explicit by having fair-haired characters and the darker, more visibly othered Frankenstein's monster. And so what we're also dealing with here is the way in which that white female directors are allowed to be ignorant of class, of race, and that of class and race and how they intersect, and they get to have the barrier of the double standard, which is still real. Like, it's still real regardless. But I think, again, it is frustrating as a woman of color to then have the very legitimate critiques of how the racial element being removed speaks to a deep ignorance in the storytelling be combined with a double standard and then outsourced to a lot of people's also double standards that are very untrue. That was a very messy way of saying that. What am I trying to, sorry, let me rewind that. What I'm saying is that, like, while there is a double standard in the way that Emerald Fennell is being perceived, people who are really true to this life are not doing that. Is there a double standard? Absolutely. But that double standard is being used to overshadow very legitimate concerns and criticisms about her as a creator. And if you want to compare it to Christopher Nolan and Guillermo del Toro, which are both being critiqued right now, there are a lot of issues with The Odyssey. Absolutely. Like, you could just visually, what's happening here? But the racism that is being directed towards Lupita Nyong'o being Helen of Troy overshadows that so deeply because it shows that people want these books to be a part of their white fantasy. And having one or two background characters be just there is enough to flip the script. In comparison, Guillermo del Toro makes a very, very, I would say almost too nerdy version of Dracula that includes Latinx and Latino questions and moralities into it, and everyone's like, a man could never. That's weird. That's weird. And also, finally, if you were adapting a text based off of a Bronte or Jane Austen, bitches be wildin'. That's just the reality. Like, people are precious about those texts, and so it's going to be heavily criticized. And also because from what everyone who has seen the movie has said, they talk about how beautiful it is, how, like, the classic differences. But I feel like a lot of people are just inherently missing, and not necessarily the person I'm stitching, but a lot of people are inherently missing the fact that, like, we are in a period, again, where the UK is even more xenophobic than it was before. And racism is there. To ignore these things in another adaptation of Wuthering Heights is exhausting. It's exhausting. It's exhausting to see people pretend all of a sudden that, like, Romani people are the same as Irish travelers, because they're not. They're not. And pretend as though, like, oh, being dark-skinned, being called a dark-skinned slur. Not just saying dark-skinned, but dark-skinned slur. That could be anybody. You know, like taking Jacob Elordi's Basque heritage and trying to make it like though the Basque people are the same as Irish travelers and the same as Romani. They're not. Like, they're all indigenous peoples, but they're not the same. And it's just like, again, the desire for things to be white by any means necessary if it's a leading character is a problem. And white female directors are not exempt from that. White directors aren't exempt from that because people were critiquing Celine's songs, The Materialist, because of that. And are sometimes women and women of color directors held to a higher standard? Yes. But I would argue that there's a reason for that as well.
Princess Weeks is a creator I absolutely respect, and I absolutely love her videos and how nuanced and her critiques and her commentary is on media. You get, she mentions Helen of Troy being bashed left and right. Which year ago was Ariel being bashed for being black, being questioned on her validity as a mermaid, as Ariel. Lupita was like, Helen of Troy literally came out from an egg, yeah, and they're still bashing that why will a black woman play it? But the one that actually has a black man in text, a black man in text, a black character, or no, it's not a black character, but it's a racial order in text, a different race in text. You don't get point, I beg. You don't get point. This video is even mostly just how, I don't know how what world would you live, like what must life feel like when you don't have to consider anybody but yourself? What must life feel like? It's the same way Natalie, the YouTuber, what's that her name? Her name is Natalie. She came out and was talking about how people should have voted for Kamala, and that we'll settle Palestine movement later. Let's just vote this woman in. And it's like, what do you mean we talk about Palestine later? Doing liberal Zionism, because the only person she has to consider is herself, because she feels like if we had let in a liberal Zionist, at least white trans lives would have mattered. White trans lives would not be under so much attack. Meanwhile, it was always going to be under attack. It was always going to be affected. If they can get away with killing children, genociding a whole group of people because they are brown in broad daylight, who do you think you are? What do you think? You think you're, and now look at where we are. ICE is killing white people on the streets. In fact, killing them because they are white. People that voted them in, that voted to have such a body exist, are being killed by the same body and saying this is not what I voted for. That is what happens when you think you're the only one that exists in this world. Eventually, you are going to start cannibalizing yourself, and that is what is happening. Everything is connected to everything. You can't just say let women have fun. This is going to connect to another larger trend. This is going to happen. This is going to lead to more and more erasure, bold erasures. No, it's 2026. White women especially should not have fun. They should go back to the drawing board and do the work. No more fun for white women. No more fun for them. You people don't try. No more fun for white women, especially rich white women that come and waltz in and just do whatever the hell they like. Sophia Coppola, I'm looking at you. No more fun for white women. Can Chloe Zhao do such a thing? She can't. She can't. The weight of Hamlet is resting on her shoulder, that if she does not perform up to par, she will not tell you that race does not matter. God. Many people are not serious. That's what I wanted to say, Sha. Thank you for watching my video. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me your other aspects, angles of this whole thing. You understand? In the comments. I'd love to hear. Subscribe for more.